Mark Weinberger, Global Chairman and CEO of EY. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
So we're at the Aspen Ideas Festival, and you were speaking on a panel about how the private sector can increase economic mobility. So how can that be done? That's kind of a big challenge.
It is, but you know, we have a responsibility. First of all, 70% in the United States, at least, of all GDP growth is from consumption. And if we don't have people who can move up and consume, then we don't have good businesses. So we have a social interest, obviously. We also have a business interest. We need great people. We hired 45,000 people from colleges, just universities last year, 70 overall. And we've got to get them from all over. And so we've got to go out and find these people, create opportunities for them, and bring it up. So we're doing it through outreach programs. We're doing it through teaching them how to prepare for college and get interested in college. We're doing it through moving to neighborhoods we wouldn't ordinarily look at. It's a great opportunity for us to give back and get something.
What's the role of the private sector versus the government here?
Well, the government needs to have a supportive overall environment. I think low regulation, low taxes, creating an opportunity for business to be able to go and do these types of programs. I really think that it's hard for the national government, at least, to come up with customized programs that are going to work in each and every circumstance. We know what we need, we know what we have to do, we know how we can train people to get where they need to be, so we need to take responsibility as businesses. We do have good partners in the state and local and the area educational institutions who work with us as well.
So you are growing. You guys have been growing for quite some time. There's really no let up. What's the outlook for your company this year, the next couple of years? Is the growth domestic? Is it international?
So we're growing, fortunately, globally across the board. All of our areas are growing and each of our businesses are growing. So we're going to hire, as I said, some 65,000 people this year. We'll net 35,000 or so increase. And it literally is every corner of the world. We are projecting that by 2020, some 30+% of our revenue will come from emerging markets, so we're seeing strong growth there. But we're also seeing strong growth now in the United States, which has a really strong economy. Even parts of Europe, which is obviously moving very slowly, we're seeing growth there. We're seeing it in our audit business still. We're seeing it in our advisory business, our tax business. M&A is picking up, so that's a big opportunity for us. So we're really seeing it across the board.
What's your sense on where we are in the business cycle? Obviously, when markets go to new highs, people get nervous that it's long in the tooth, the bull market. When we know the Federal Reserve is going to be making some changes on the interest rate front eventually, where do you see the business cycle in this country, in the U.S.?
Well, the U.S. is really strong still fundamentals. So I think you're seeing wage growth start to happen, although slowly. You're seeing unemployment go down, which is a positive, obviously. Inflation is low. Energy costs are still very low. All the positive things you would think of to help an economy grow. The real problem are three things with the U.S. economy that are slowing it down. One is the rest of the world. Things like this in Greece, things like in Russia and the Ukraine, things that might happening in the Middle East. Those all have a major effect, slowdown in China, on the United States growth rates. The second would be whether or not interest rates are actually going to go up. And that uncertainty that's created by that is what I call an uncertainty tax. So those two, and then the third, of course, is the really strong dollar. So it's really hard for U.S. businesses who now have over 50%, at least the largest businesses, over 50% of their revenue overseas, to be able to continue to export and do things with a really, really strong dollar. So those three things are slowing down from where we could be at a more natural growth level.
Is that what's troubling companies most, the companies that you deal with? Are those their three priority issues, or are there other concerns that they have?
Well, those are big concerns, and then still what goes on in Washington. I mean, we're looking at coming up to the end of the year. We have the Highway Trust Fund, which is now gone, ran out of money. We have big tax issues on the table. The big trade agenda is something that a lot of businesses are focusing on and seeing whether we'll open up the world to the 40% of the world's market to new trade deals. Those are things governments are focusing on as well. But realistically, when they think about investing in capital and labor, they're looking at longer term. What is the Washington environment going to be? What's the dollar going to be? What our interest rates are going to be? All those things come into play.
Mark Weinberger, great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.